I'm going to be talking about implementing ethics for trustworthy AI, so very fitting after the previous talk, and a little legalese. So the biggest part of making ethical AI is really making sure that we have inclusive, diverse teams, and that's inclusivity in all of those meanings. So making sure that we are different in race, in gender, in age, and many, many, many other aspects, including education. And this is because great minds think differently. If we all have the same background, if we all come from the same educational experience, we are much more likely to think the same way and miss the same things. And so we want teams of different thinking people to work together to solve all the problems. And this is not about lowering the bar. This is about extending it. So making the group bigger and more diverse, but also making sure that everyone is still talented and experienced in the various areas that they need to be. And so once we have that team, we need to adopt technology ethics. And there are lots and lots of different types of technology ethics. The one I typically recommend people look at is the Montreal Declaration for Responsible AI. And that's because it's just very broad and can cover any aspect that you need it to. And the purpose of the technology ethics is to harmonize cultural variations that you find in a diverse team. Once you bring all these people together, they're going to all have different points of view. They're going to have different mindsets. And this helps to bring all that information together into one alignment, their experiences into one alignment. And this also can help to balance the pace of change, especially in industry. There's a lot of pressure to create, to make, to release. And this helps the team to take a step back and think about the consequences. This also gives the team explicit permission to really consider and question the breadth of the implications. Why are we doing this? What are we doing? Who might it hurt? Who are we helping? And so I'm going to talk today about how we get there. So how do you take that set of technical ethics and actually make a trustable ethical AI system? And this is about conversations, and these conversations are pretty deep, and I'm going to provide you with a quick UX framework to help guide those discussions. So these difficult topics include what we value, who could be hurt, what lines won't our AI cross, how are we shifting power, and who will track our, and how will we track our progress? What are we going to measure? What's important to us? And this is new and uncomfortable work for a lot of people because we don't typically have courses in this area within computer science. And so the work is to be uncomfortable, to really get our fingers dirty in this work and understand it and not be superficial about it, but rather really dig into the problems and what we're trying to do. And so the best way to do this is to prompt those conversations. And I've created a checklist, which you can see here with a QR code. And you would use this and pair it with a set of technical ethics. And so this is to help bridge the gap between statements in technical ethics, such as do no harm, which is not implementable at all, and the reality of actually trying to make a solution to a problem. And this will help you to reduce risk and unwanted bias and reveal hidden tasks that you haven't thought about doing. So things that you might need to do with the data, things that you might need to do with regard to keeping people safe. So the UX framework I mentioned, there are 4 aspects, and I'll get into these in a minute. Accountable to humans, cognizant of speculative risks and benefits, respectful and secure, and honest and usable. And so to help frame this, I want to talk about a scenario, the right staff scenario. This is an AI shift scheduling system. So if you've ever worked in a retail store, a fast food store, the store manager typically sets up the schedule. And the goals of this system are to help make the manager make faster staffing decisions and scheduling. So the AI system kind of picks that up for them, and to reduce the bias of shift selection that is common in these situations where a store manager has some friends that they typically give better shifts to, and people who aren't necessarily in that friend group don't get those better shifts. And so this system would help to reduce that issue. And so when I think about this framework, accountable to humans, this is about ensuring that humans have ultimate control and that they're able to monitor and control risk. So humans have responsibility for final decisions with regard to, for example, a person's life, their quality of life, their health, and their reputation, the really important things in our world. And the responsibilities need to be explicitly defined. So in the right staff situation, we have the AI system and we have the human manager. Who is going to pick employees to schedule, for example? Who defines shifts? Who determines the method to integrate new information, such as sick time and resignations? These are the types of conversations to have with the system. The second area is cognizant of speculative risks and benefits. And this is where we identify the full range of harmful and malicious use as well as good and beneficial use, and identify blind spots and any unwanted or unintended consequences that could occur with these systems. And there are different activities that we can do to do this, but they need to be ones that activate our curiosity, that create a situation where we are thinking broadly and thinking creatively, where we can speculate about the misuse and abuse, and potentially create Black Mirror episodes, if you're familiar with the TV show, the worst case scenario, the potential severe abuse of these systems and the consequences. And by doing this, it helps us to really think through what's going to happen. And then by doing this, we can then create communication plans and mitigation plans, or ideally prevent those situations from happening at all. And when we think through these types of situations, we want to think about who could report the misuse or the unintended consequence of the system, and to whom, who's going to be able to turn it off, and who would be notified, and what are the unintended consequences of turning it off. So really thinking through all of this long before we launch the product. Respectful and secure is the third area, and this is about valuing the things that are important: humanity, ethics, equity, fairness, accessibility, diversity, and inclusion, and respecting privacy and data rights of the people using the system and the people whose data is being used, making sure the system is robust, valid, and reliable in all of those meanings, and provide understandable security. And so for that rights staff situation, the things to think about are who has visibility to the reasons for changing a schedule. So someone may have a very private reason that they need to change their schedule. How is that information used? How are we protecting the personal information of the employees? So all kinds of ways that we need to think through the implications of this work again. Honest and usable is the fourth area. And here we're talking about valuing transparency with the goal of engendering trust and explicitly stating the identity as an AI system. So for example, with a chatbot, you would know if you're speaking to a human or to the system, or a smart speaker is another example. And with rights staff, we want to think about how and why are decisions made. Is there usable security that's in place so that people aren't having to write down their password on a Post-it note or something like that? So thinking through all four of those is important. But we aren't perfect, at least I'm not, and AI won't be perfect. So we need these diverse teams and inclusive environments. We need those groups adopting technical ethics. We need to encourage deep conversations through checklists and other means. And we need to activate curiosity so that we can all be speculative and imaginative about the use, misuse, and abuse of these systems. And I'd like to encourage you to evangelize for human values and do ethical, transparent, and fair work and create good systems. If you'd like to learn more, I'm with the Software Engineering Institute with Ritwik and Sandra, and we have some information there. There's another QR code for you, and I'm happy to continue the conversation afterwards. Thank you very much. If there are questions.